Hey guys, welcome to another video. Before we get any farther, I want to announce the winner of the Saramonic Ultimate Creator Kit giveaway. And I just picked one random person that commented on the last video what their favorite guitar solo was. And it was Blues Sumlin with the solo for Wasted Years in Iron Maiden. I'm kind of shocked that I only got like 37 comments on that video for something that's like a free... I guess people don't want free stuff. Anyway, so Blues Sumlin, you're going to get that creator kit that I had in the last video, which comes with like a gimbal, tripod, 2 microphones, phone mount, all the cords you need to create your own videos. And I'm using the microphone I'm using right now to do the audio is from that creator kit. So what you're hearing me talk through is that. Anyway, you guys, in today's video, I guess I should tell you where you need to send your address to. So Blues Sumlin, if you will email me at Guitar Daze, so guitar and then D-A-Z-E, and then the number 1, not spelled out, just the number 1 at Gmail. Send me your real name, your address, and phone number. I will forward your information on to Saramonic, and they will be sending you a brand new content creator kit with all that stuff I just mentioned. Congratulations. Pretty awesome. Anyway, I've been using that stuff to do my gig vlogs, and it works out really handy. It's a lot of good gear to have. Cool little backpack that comes with it. In today's video, guys, I'm interviewing my friend Quinn Brown. I've known Quinn since college back at Utah State in the 90s, early 2000s. He played in a band called Cinnamon Brown and the Eskimos, and I played in my college band, which was called Brother Sage. And several years went past. About 7 years ago, our buddy Jeff Hamula and Quinn started a band called the Quinn Brown Project, and compiled a bunch of other players together. And I think at one point there was a piano player, and we even had a saxophone player. It was like a lot of people in the band. And Jeff moved away to North Carolina, and Quinn asked me to be in the band about 7 years ago. We did a record called Quinn Brown Project Crisis Averted, which basically is like talking about turning 40 and having a midlife crisis, and that the Quinn Brown Project was our midlife crisis sort of type thing. Anyway, we did a record. I'll put a link to that record in the comments. We did it kind of live here at my studio. It was really fun. I think I talked about that with Quinn in the interview. And in the interview, I have long hair. I just recently cut my hair, you guys. The wife was getting tired of it, and this was kind of her birthday present, was for me to cut it. She says I look 10 years younger, but whatever. I feel like I've lost any kind of rock vibe I had going at all, and now I just look like an average Joe. Anyway, you guys, Quinn's an awesome dude, always fun to play with. And when I started playing with him, we would take all these trips up to Jackson in Wyoming, and it was just kind of a bro hangout type of weekend. You might get what you're after, cool baby, strange but not a stranger. I'm in on thin. And just all sorts of crazy stuff ensued, as you can imagine. It was almost like a little teeny frat between 4 guys that wanted to go out and play. I'm sure you guys have been in bands like that where we were all friends and just had a good time. Anyway, you guys, Quinn is awesome. He plays a cool Gibson. I think it's like an ES-335 type guitar. And he's written a lot of songs. He touts himself as a songwriter. He's from a small town in Iowa. And anyway, you guys, without further ado, this is my interview with Quinn Brown. Enjoy, you guys. Quinn!
Rich!
Dude. Thanks for coming, dude.
Yeah, mazel tov. Glad to be here.
So, I wanted to kind of just talk to Quinn today about his music life.
Yeah.
But also, like, just your journey.
For sure, man.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Your whole... From when you started to, like, you're from Iowa, right?
Yeah.
So when's, like, the first time that what was the first thing you heard that made you want to, like, pick up a guitar? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. There's, thinking back on it, there's a couple instances. And the first one really probably was my sister's got this record. And it was like a compilation called I Love the 80s or something like that. And it had to have been like 1980, honestly. But I heard Gary Newman's song Cars. Like, here in my car, I sit alone with myself. Such a cool song, right? Mm-hmm. So anyway, I heard that and I was like, I want to do that. Right?
How old were you?
So I had to have been like 5. 1980.
And you knew at 5 that you wanted to do music, or that you wanted to play guitar, or
music. Like, I just remember hearing that, and I remember it kind of struck something in me, and I'm like, dude, this is so cool. Yeah. Like, whoever did this, like, I just remember thinking it was so cool.
I think the first one I remember was, remember Safety Dance?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
It's the same.
Yeah.
And that wasn't, I think that was like, for me, that was like when I was really like wanting to get into it. But then I had brothers that like, Did you have like siblings?
Yeah, for sure. So, I can remember my sister got Men at Work, Business as Usual.
Oh, yeah, dude.
And I remember just thinking that was so cool. And so, that kind of like spiked my interests. And so I can remember we were in Kansas City and I talked to my mom. We were staying at my aunt's house.
Yeah.
And she was young at the time. She had to have been in her 20s. She's probably recently married, and they had MTV. I can remember seeing Devo's video to Whip It. And so we went to the mall and I used my money, my parents, so I could pick something out. And at this time I was probably like 6 or 7. And I bought Another One Bites the Dust and I bought Whip It. And
two kind of polar opposites.
Yeah, 2 polar opposites. And
could you tell a difference between like
I thought like that part and that breakdown in Another One Bites the Dust, that
yeah.
I remember thinking that either sounded like a helicopter or brushing your teeth, right?
Yeah.
So I had both of those, and it was the 45, and you had to buy the little thing to put it in, and I remember we got them home, and I had to put them in and all of that. And I had those for like a month, and then my mom, like, all of a sudden, like, that's when backmasking and all of that, like, everybody's talking about it.
And this was in Iowa.
This is in Iowa.
So you guys probably didn't even have record players until...
Oh, come on. Yeah. We had the big horn, like the one you see on the RCA. Yeah.
It was like a wax cylinder.
Yeah. Grandma would crank it up. And after Grandpa started, after he finished telling stories about the Great War.
That's how people think. When they think of Iowa, they think of just cornfields and like behind the times.
I'll actually get into that a little bit and how that shaped, really my musical career. But, so anyway, I brought both those records home and I had them for a whole solid week. And then my mom heard something about backmasking and something about smoke marijuana and Another One Bites the Dust. And then she told me that Whip It was all about masturbation. And I was like 7, right? So I'm like, I don't know what this is. And she broke them both in half. So that was my...
I had a teacher that reversed the cassette tapes.
Yeah.
And would let us hear.
Yeah.
And just to see what we thought. Yeah. Visually saying it.
Yeah.
But I was like, that's cool that I have a music teacher that's like showing us this stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's weird. Your mom.
Yeah. So.
And
which is funny because my mom now would have like, it's just what she was hearing on the Today Show or something like that.
Well, and we both of us come from a very conservative, religious families and backgrounds.
Yeah, so absolutely.
My mom, I remember when like George Michael's I Want Your Sex or something like that. Do you remember what song was it? Was it I Want Your Sex?
Yes, yeah.
And she was trying to, and we knew exactly what that song was.
You're stirring feelings inside of me, Rich, that I shouldn't be.
No, but I'm just saying, like, she came to us and was like, oh, there's some song on the radio. And it says, I want your... Do you know how to finish this? She was trying to get us to see if we knew.
Yeah.
And my brothers and I just completely...
Yeah, it went stone cold.
What you're talking about, Mom.
Yeah. That was like Tone Loc's Wild Thing. Right? Like, I'm like, I don't know, this is wild. Say Spud McKenzie in it, right? Like, it's got to be okay. So, yeah. Anyway, so after that, like, I definitely, like I said, my sister got Business as Usual, and I love that. And I can remember staring at the back of the record covers and seeing that and saying, man, I want to do that. And then, you know, Moving Pictures was also a really big, you know, for me. My oldest sister was really into Rush. And in fact, she had this boyfriend who actually, I think he works for, I'm trying to think of his last name, but he's a big producer now out in LA. But anyway, he played in a Rush cover band. Nice. And to the point where he had the bass pedals on the stage and you know, the keyboard, and
he was Geddy Lee.
Yeah, he was Geddy Lee. Yeah. And anyway, so that that really turned me on to want to do it. But I think what really got me into the guitar is I was probably 9 or 10, and you know, just watching MTV. Like, of course, we couldn't have MTV at my house because it was the devil's, you know, the devil speak. But I remember seeing these guys playing these guitars, and I remember, like, you know, like most 80s, there was, like, you know, if you're listening to like ZZ Top or whatever, you had the ladies too. And I was like, oh, the guitar equals the ladies. This looks like a pretty good combination. Did
your parents block MTV?
We didn't even have cable.
Oh, they didn't have cable. So we had cable.
Yeah.
And back then they would come out.
Yeah.
They would bring this little cylinder.
Yeah.
That they actually put on the cable wire that would block out certain channels. Yeah. And my brother saw the dude show up and put it on, and all of a sudden MTV was on. He was there the day that it happened. This is my little brother. And so he went up. This is how conniving we were as kids. So he climbed up the telephone pole. I mean, it wasn't that high. It came down, and there was a cylinder. And he undid the cylinder, put it back on, and then he went in and he used the parental controls to block those channels unless you put the actual channel number in. So we knew how to go right. My parents would go right past it.
Yeah. My problem is there was a river, and they didn't run cable across the river.
Oh, so
we didn't, like, I think my junior year of high school, we actually got cable, but my mom was like, I'm blocking MTV, but we watched it all the time at our friends' houses. So I just thought it was so cool. And I would say too, probably the Reflex video, Duran Duran.
Oh yeah.
And seeing those guys on stage. And so I can remember from that age, from probably like 7, 8 on, like trying to make up little songs in my head and all that. And I wanted to play guitar bad. And my mom and dad told me, like, you have to learn how to read music first. So I took some piano and stuff, but then I picked up trumpet in 4th grade, and I was 12, and my buddies and I skateboarded down to Main Street, which that doesn't seem like a big deal, but we're talking Iowa, so this is like 5 miles. Right. Like, this wasn't like a, hey, let's just go over. I mean, I am talking like it was like 3 hours to skateboard to Main Street from where we were at. Yeah, we were like 12, and we went in and we were just messing around with guitars, and there was the Series 10 Strat copy, and I wanted one so bad, and I asked for it for Christmas, and I said, listen, I can read music, and you know, you guys said once I could read music, I could play guitar, and you know, at that point, my dad just said, you know, well, you can get this, but I don't want you playing any heavy metal. So, true to his word, we steered clear of heavy metal, and we mainly just played Danzig, Misfits, you know, Circle Jerk, The Cramps. Yeah, we were playing no metal, but we were playing like Black Flag, that.
Yeah, so stuff that might have possibly even been worse lyrically than some of the metal stuff.
Horrifically worse, yeah.
Did your dad not ever hear any of this stuff?
Well, I do have a quintessential moment. Get it? Quintessential. Yeah. Just in case. Yeah. We were, at the time, so I was probably 12, and my buddies and I had gotten, we were, you know, it was just everybody at that time was skateboarding, and, you know, everybody's listening to punk rock, and we were listening to, big into the Misfits, and there was a song, Mommy, Can I Go Out and Kill Tonight? And there's this breakdown where it like stops, and there's like feedback on the guitars, and it's so cool, and Glenn Danzig's like, Mommy, can I go out and kill tonight? You know, so I'm driving with my dad, and for some reason there was part of me that thought this was a good idea. I was like, Dad, this is like the coolest part of the song. Check this out. And I crank it up, and next thing I know, the eject happens on the car stereo, the window, rolls down, and out the window, my Misfits Greatest Hits goes.
Yeah.
And that was, you're done wearing black. You're done wearing shirts with skulls on them. We're changing things right now.
My, you remember the band Anthrax?
Oh, yeah.
There's a song called, they did a rap song.
Yeah.
It was pretty dirty.
It was Bring the Noise, wasn't it? With Public Enemy, or?
Probably. It probably was, yeah. You're probably right. I just don't remember.
Yeah.
But my mom comes outside, right?
Yeah.
And I used to have a paper out. She comes out while I'm folding my papers listening to this, like during like one of the worst parts. Like that always happened. Like my parents was always like, right during when they say like some word that I didn't know I was going to say that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, no, I loved Anthrax. I listened to DRI a lot, just kind of that skate punk stuff in the 80s.
So while you were listening to that, I was totally like the hair metal.
Yeah.
Because, I wanted to be the best guitar player ever.
Yeah.
And be a shredder and all that stuff. So how did you, because musically you and I are a lot different.
Yeah.
Kind of the same.
Yeah.
As far as some of the stuff we like. But when did Grateful Dead come into the picture for you?
I'd say
you're
probably about like 14, 15.
Okay, all right.
So, all my buddies, we all skated. We all we were into that kind of thrash punk stuff. And kind of as that there was, at least where I was at, I would say there was kind of a void of there was what had happened, like the early 80s punk, and then there really wasn't. And I know on the coast there were still new punk bands coming out that were emerging, but there was kind of a lull. And during that time, a lot of our friends, older brothers, got way into the Grateful Dead and stuff like that. And if you want to say something for marketing, it was they just had such a cool logo and such a cool t-shirt and such
the Dead.
The steal your face stuff and stuff. So we got way into...
So your dad never really got rid of the skulls and stuff?
No, it just changed from one with a pus head, flesh rotting off the actual face to hippie music. Yeah. And so, and it was, and then at that point too, it was kind of cool because a lot of my friends' dads, I grew up playing hockey. We had a lot of road trips and stuff. So, the dads would be in charge of... And these guys all were, Vietnam era.
Is Iowa a big hockey state?
It's an okay hockey state.
It's not like Canada or Michigan.
No.
Northern Michigan.
No.
Okay.
But a lot of my parents' dads were pretty into music. And so they'd be like, oh, this is this, or this is this. That's, that's how I heard Creedence. That's how I heard a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Because my parents were more Beatles, early, they're a bit older. And so... I got exposed to a lot of that stuff. So we kind of dove into, discovering Steppenwolf and discovering Iron Butterfly and Rainbow and some of that stuff through my buddy's parents.
Yeah.
And so, we kind of got into the Dead, but the weird thing is I never detached from, I still liked Gary Newman's Cars, that I started out with. It just fit a different void at the time, and maybe it was kind of counterculture.
Yeah.
But you mentioned Iowa, and the one thing I do want to bring up there is, although I was raised in a tourist destination where everybody loves to go and see.
What part of Iowa are you from?
Ames, Iowa. Well, I grew up outside of Ames, close to a town called Gilbert, but
okay.
Where I went to high school, I graduated with 48 kids. It was very agricultural, really great place to grow up. I think I've told you guys the story that we could keep guns in our locker till our senior year. I mean, it was just I remember our senior year, the principal saying you can no longer keep a gun in your locker. It has to go out in your car or be checked in at the office. It was an awesome place to grow up, super fun. But because there wasn't a lot going on there, meaning, you guys had the mountains, you had skiing, you had all this stuff. We had corn and really cold winters. And so...
My brother lives in Omaha, Nebraska.
It's somewhere in middle America. Yeah. Yeah, so music was a really big thing.
Yeah.
So even the city of Ames, Iowa had a municipal band. And they would put on a show at this place called the Band Shell, which was one of the Great Depression projects. And the whole thing would sell out. It wouldn't even sell out. There'd be 1,000 people that would come to this. And anytime there was any kind of music, everybody went. And so it was like if there was, I don't know, let's say a Beatles tribute band or something that came through town, it would be everybody just went. Everybody really,
to do.
Yeah, it was something to do.
Me growing up, I had skiing.
Yeah,
through the mountains.
Yeah,
but yeah, I can see like if you don't have a lot of recreation, that music can be like more of a.
I mean, it was like at our 7th grade. I can remember at the 7th grade lunch table getting in arguments with guys whether Bon Scott or Mr. Smith was the right lead, who was the better lead man for AC/DC, and
that still happened here.
But yeah, but that's like, that was, I mean, everybody, and it wasn't that like, because I can remember, and this is no offense to folks out here, but I can remember coming out to college and talking to people and saying like, hey, who's your favorite band or whatever, and they're like, I like what's on the radio, and that just didn't seem to happen out there. Like everybody had an opinion because, like I said, when you take out a big sector of entertainment, you have to add it in with.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
So, so then you started playing guitar.
Yeah.
When was your first band?
So my first band was right when I started playing.
Okay, out there in Iowa.
Yeah.
What were you guys called?
I think our first official band, we were Pistols and Petunias, which was it was a bunch of guys I played hockey with. It was it was a takeoff of Guns N' Roses.
Oh, gotcha.
Yeah, so we were, we thought it was funny.
It's like what's the band that
LA Guns?
No, when Slash joined with Chris Cornell or with
Velvet Revolver. Yeah, same deal. Yeah, it was funny. Yeah, it was kind of like a total takeoff. And I mean, it was, I remember we had this guy, he would come to my buddy's parents' house, and he would teach my one friend, my buddy Jim, he'd teach him a half-hour bass lesson, and then he'd teach me a half-hour guitar lesson. And I can remember we learned Pipeline, the Dick Dale, like surf rock song. And we tore that thing up, man. Like
reverb all the way up.
Yeah, like,
the drip.
Yeah, and then we figured out power chords on our own, and it was.
Did you? Because when I was growing up, I had cassette tapes, and I would just rewind them. Did you learn by ear?
Yeah, totally, 100%, 100%. Yeah.
So I was rewinding cassette tapes, and then you'd have to get if the cassette got all tangled up, you have to get your pencil out and
perform surgery. Sometimes it would go beyond repair. The worst is when it went through the wash.
Well, it just baffles my mind now that how much resource the kids have for learning guitar, and they don't really care.
So get this, man. I remember I used to go, I'd ride my bike to the mall, and I'd take a piece of paper in with me, and I'd go to Sam Goody or like Musicland, same thing.
Yeah.
And they'd have the guitar books. And I'd go in there and I'd go in there and like write down the chords, and then I'd listen to it. It would be like if I got frustrated, couldn't figure something out.
I think I'd steal money out of my mom's change drawer to buy a guitar magazine.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a long way to ride your bike, I guess.
Well, it's a long way to the top if you want to rock and roll, Richard. Like,
See, yeah. The farthest we had to go was Smith's.
Yeah.
And it was like 7 blocks from my house, and I felt like that was.
But you know how they'd have like Zeppelin's greatest hits, or something like that. It was mainly more piano music, but it had the guitar, like the chords written above.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah, I can remember I was probably 13, and I learned The Ocean by ear, like the Zeppelin's tune off of Houses of the Holy.
Yeah.
Because I remember my friends.
That's pretty cool.
Like the coolest thing is I remember like my buddy and I, we bought it. Like and this is back when CDs were an investment, right? It was like $20, and like, you got the whole. It was in the big cardboard thing. Yeah. We brought it home, and I remember we just listened to that over and over, and we're like, that's the coolest riff.
Yeah.
And and then I spent some serious time trying to dial that in.
And you like have really good rhythm chops. You're like a really good rhythm player. Do you feel like that's where you spent a majority of your time learning guitar?
Yeah, so it's interesting. So when I first started out, I learned all the scales.
Yeah.
And got all that dialed in, and then probably when I hit my dead face, I really got into singing.
Yeah.
And I'm not like, here's the deal. My voice is something I'm not saying I even have a great voice by any means, but like it's something I had to develop. I wasn't like I definitely wasn't.
Born with a voice.
Yeah, I didn't melt butter with my sultry tones as a child. Like
a lot of us rockers.
Yeah.
We're not American Idol voices.
Yeah.
Which I kind of miss those bands that they just had a sound.
Yeah.
And it wasn't because their voice was so amazing.
Well, I mean, I think a perfect example of that is you take Talking Heads, you take the Cars.
Yep.
You know, it's by no means do either of those guys have like
amazing voices.
An amazing voice.
One of the Cars guys did, Ben Moore, but Rick Ocasek.
Yeah, Rick, who sang most of the songs. I mean, it's pretty like, you know, it wasn't like this. It was a sound though, and that's what was cool.
Yeah, and now it feels like everything on the radio, at least to me.
Yeah.
Probably because I'm old, everything sounds the same to me.
Yeah.
There's nothing that sounds unique. Or
no.
Someone's making a sound for themselves.
And here's the other thing, you know, speaking of that, is there's nothing that like you even take like Billy Idol, for example, or even take Rush or there was something dangerous about what they were doing.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you look at, or Madonna even, like you look at it and it's, there was something unique and something like dangerous. You know, or like...
And it really was a sound.
Yeah, sound.
They sounded like them. Where today, if you threw 10 artists up in the air...
Yeah.
Current artists, I wouldn't be able to tell you...
Yeah, and I mean...
If one of those sounded any different than...
And it's no slight on them, but I mean, you take anything from like... Panic at the Disco, Imagine Dragons, I mean, really, any of those, Maroon 5, they're all fantastic artists.
Yeah.
But like, if you break it down, it's pretty much the same chord structure on most of the stuff. It's very, you know,
it's not very progressive.
Not very progressive. But it's not out there. And I mean, it's like, you know, I think a perfect example is like, you know, if you look at like, if you watch the documentary on 2112, when they did that, they said it's all or nothing. And you even hear Neil Peart that say, we're either going to make it with this album or I'm going back to the hardware store.
Yep.
I mean, it's.
Yeah.
And I mean, it's even like, you look at like...
That was off of Beyond the Lighted Stage.
Yes.
That's such a great documentary.
That's where the, was it Stefan Bach? Is that the guy's name from Skid Row?
Sebastian Bach.
Sebastian Bach. Yeah. He read Ayn Rand's Fountainhead because they dedicated the album to it.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's like, even if you look at like hip hop, you look at like Public Enemy was dangerous.
Yeah.
Or if you listen to early Midnight Oil and it's like just driving and it's...
Well, and you felt, and I'm not saying that today's music doesn't have the emotion and the voice, but man, you could just felt the energy. Raw. Like they went into the studio and they put that, their vibe into it.
So I think a perfect example of this is you look at like disco, right?
Yeah.
And it's interesting. You and I both played with Shab.
Yeah.
And he talks about pre-disco, you know, he was...
Shab is a local, for those of you guys watching, Shab's a local bass player that...
Animal legend.
Kind of from the northern Utah area.
Yeah.
And taught music his whole career.
But he's always played in bands since the 70s.
He's missing this thumb on his...
Farming accident.
Yeah, on his slapping.
Yeah.
Hand. Anyway, go ahead.
Absolute animal. But like he talks about like, and I heard the same thing, you know, growing up in Iowa, is like there was this point where rock and roll was so huge and there were clubs everywhere and it was like booming, and then disco happened and gigs just dried up overnight, like just shut down.
Yeah.
I remember talking to guys, you know, in the city where I grew up that were older they said, you know, we were making $1,000 a gig, you know, in the 70s, crushing it, and then it just overnight disco happened. Well, and I think whether it's painting, whether it's film, whether it's music, art is only as good as its authenticity, right?
Yeah.
Like nobody's going to buy into anything that's not authentic. That's why, like, you know, we'll go out and play covers and people are like, oh, I like your spin on it or whatever, but they're kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
They're entertained, but they're not moved by it, right? Aren't you entertained? Like a gladiator. But anyway. But, you know, but if you really think about it, if you're authentic about what you're doing, then it's huge. And I think that's why grunge was so massive, right? Because it went from overly produced glam rock to super pop. Like, you know, you look at the whole synth pop of the 80s.
Yeah.
Great guilty pleasure. But anyway.
I still...
Yeah, no,
there's a band called Churches. Have you heard of those guys?
I've been to church.
No, it's a band.
Yes.
That my daughter listens to, and it's total throwback.
Yeah.
Cute little singer.
Yeah.
And it's synth.
Yeah.
But you can tell everyone's really playing.
Yeah.
It's not programmed. You know what I mean?
But I think that's what spoke to everybody so hardcore in the 90s is there was that authenticity to what they were doing.
Yeah, but it was almost like just like giving a middle finger to everything that was happening.
Yeah.
And everyone's just like, okay.
Yeah, they're like, you know
refreshing.
what? Yeah, they're like, I don't buy into this. And I think we're back in
you could tell it was so corporate. It got so corporate with all the shredding and solo and every song.
Oh yeah. And I think we're back. I think we're on the edge of a musical renaissance. What that is, I don't know.
Yeah.
But I think people are kind of like, I think they have this formula and they're saying, okay, this is what will sell. But I don't think it's authentic, and I don't think it's dangerous, and I don't think it moves people at all.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, well, and you've got, who knows, like the stuff that's on the radio, I don't know how that, if there's some kind of formula.
Yeah.
I'm talking about currently, because I mean, even in the last 10 years, I've just completely stopped listening to radio.
You know, I have.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I have a couple hipster kids, if you will.
Yeah.
Not my own, but I'm saying like just younger guys that every now and again they'll text me something like, I think I may have sent it to you, and I can't remember the name of the artist, but it was a song called Boys in a Better Land, and it was these guys out of the UK, and they're freaking awesome. So, I mean, there are guys that are coming out. I think the hard thing is, like we've talked about before, there's so many ways to grab music that it's hard to ever rise up to the
that, and everyone has musical ADD where it's like you can go out on Spotify and pull up anything, and everyone's just skipping to the whatever floats their boat. You know? So it's so saturated, it's crazy.
Yeah, well, and I also think too, I mean, in our generation, like music was such an investment that you spent the time and learned to love it. Like you learned an album, and I'm not talking just learning how to play it on guitar, but you went through, and what was your favorite song a month, when you first got it, you were into track 9 a month later, going like, I really like track 9 way more than
I learned the whole Exit Stage Left Rush album, note for note, all of Alex's parts. I just would put it on.
Who's Alex?
Alex Lifeson.
Oh,
the guitar player.
Oh, I didn't think he had a name.
I know, right?
I know there was Geddy and Neil, but wasn't it just the guy who plays guitar for Rush?
No, if you're a guitar player, you should know Alex Lifeson.
I'm just kidding, man.
In fact, he just came out with the signature. He just came out with the signature model by Epiphone.
I'm just joking because that's what he talks about in the documentary.
Oh, does he?
Yeah, like everybody goes backstage and nobody knows who Alex is.
He just sits back and lets them all talk to Geddy. True Rush fans. So, okay, you're, you and I kind of in the same faith tradition, on a Mormon mission.
Yes.
Were you able to take a guitar?
Yes, I smuggled one. Contraband.
Did you take it, fly it to your mission?
Yeah.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Martin Backpacker.
I had
Which is a terrible guitar.
You smuggled it. Okay.
Yeah, have you seen the Martin Backpacker? Yeah, it doesn't stay in tune. It's garbage. How Martin put their name on that.
So, if you guys listening, a lot of you guys don't know, like Quinn and I grew up Mormon, and the traditional thing in Mormonism is that you do a 2-year mission, and Quinn and I both did that when we were 19. I went to Michigan. You went probably
Chile.
Yeah, to Chile. Yeah. And which I see why you smuggled something, because it was probably going to be hard to find a guitar.
Actually, I didn't know, because seriously, when I found out I was going to Chile, I looked it up in an encyclopedia, and there was a picture of a green hill.
Oh.
Yeah, and it showed where it was on the map, so that's all I knew. Oh. But almost everybody had a guitar in their house.
Oh, so yeah.
Which was great too. Yeah.
So in Mormonism, we do a 2-year mission, but there's rules and stuff that you have to abide by.
And a lot of it depends on the president too.
Yeah, there's a mission president that covers a certain area.
Yeah.
And he would decide what the rules were for the missionaries.
Yeah.
My first mission president in Michigan was not okay with the guitars. My second was okay with it.
Yeah. Mine was all over it. He thought if you've got a talent, you should share it. Yeah. So
cool.
It was fun. I played with a lot of different people, and
then how did you get to Utah from your mission? Like you went.
So my parents moved.
Okay, they moved here.
Yeah, so my dad took an early retirement from Iowa State and moved out to Utah.
Gotcha.
And so I had finished up, and I went to school up in Idaho, and I had a friend up there so I played in this
BYU
Idaho?
It's Rick's College.
It was Rick's College.
Yeah. Yeah.
And BYU is the church school,
Yeah.
and it's called BYU Idaho now,
Yeah.
but it used to be called Rick's College, but it was still owned by the church.
Yeah.
Of the Mormon church.
Yeah.
Right?
So anyway, so my freshman year up there, I had played in this punk band called Third Degree.
Yeah. Up at Rick's?
Up at Rick's.
Wow, I didn't know there were punk bands.
Yeah, and so it was funny. I have to tell the story because it's worth telling. We had this guy, we called him, he sang for us and he had a terrible voice. We called him Pantera Matt because he was like way into Pantera. And in fact, he stayed up every night recording every Pantera video known to man on Headbangers Ball. And he was so proud of it. So we'd go over to his house and be like, hey guys, you want to watch, Pantera? And so one of his roommates, just to mess with them, the church does a thing every year they call General Conference where the leaders speak. And one of his friends let the first video go by, and then he recorded over the rest of it with General Conference. And then they invited us all over to watch it, and Matt lost his marbles because it was like 3 years of recording Pantera videos.
The Mormon prophet all of a sudden shows up.
So, anywho, yeah. So I played in this punk band, and I had this friend in this humanities class, Bill Widener. And we used to make fun of our humanities teacher together, and because he's a super eccentric,
Bill was at Rick's with you?
Yeah.
Oh, you guys go back a long.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
So I was 18, and I needed a bigger amp for this gig, and he had one of these. I can't remember the model, but it was the Roland amps that had the chicken wire on them.
The jazz choruses?
Yeah, the jazz choruses.
Yeah. The JC one.
So he had like
or something
he had like a 210 jazz chorus that I borrowed for this gig because anyway we were doing this one before everybody went home at Christmas, and so I knew him from that. And then when I came back from Chile, I had a math class, and I was like, Bill, let's get together and play. And so we got together and we worked out Cherub Rock, like the Smashing Pumpkins. Bill's a huge Smashing Pumpkins fan. And then I said, hey, here's all these songs I've written. Let me back up a little bit. I probably started writing when I was about 13.
Okay, cool. That's cool.
I love you, hey baby,
Thanks, man.
chick wooing songs, like, hey, I wrote this just for you.
That's Dennis DeYoung from Styx.
Yeah.
You were kind of like him.
Yeah.
Babe, I love you.
Yeah.
And all that kind of.
Yeah. Ooh, baby. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I figured, guy with the guitar helps with the ladies. And so, so that also helped with the rhythm too. Cause I was, playing a lot of Dead and writing songs. And so I became more of a songwriter. And then when I was in Chile, I wrote a lot of music. In fact, my band in college, Cinnamon Brown and the Eskimos, probably 95% of that was written.
From your mission?
Yeah, from my mission.
So then how long, was Rick's only a 2-year school back then?
Yeah, and so I was only back there 1 year.
Yeah.
So I did 2 years there, but one, and then went on my mission, came home. And so I had started Cinnamon Brown and the Eskimos up there,
Gotcha.
and then went to Utah State. And
that's where
yes,
we didn't really know each other personally, but
Yes.
we were in bands up there.
In fact, I was going through. I should have brought it tonight,
Yeah,
but I was going
Just
through.
send me anything you have.
I was going through a box, and I found a Cinnamon Brown and the Eskimo Brother Sage flyer.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Send it. I think you may have sent that once.
Yeah.
But send it to me again.
but yeah. Anyway, it was kind of
We played together.
Yeah, we played a few gigs together. So, but anyway, and really, I put my heart and soul into that. And I mean, we got after it for a solid, probably 7 years.
Yeah.
And
When did your dreams die, Quinn? After 7 years.
After 7 years, no,
Where did your dreams go to die?
I think honestly, looking back at it, and this is 45-year-old armchair quarterback of looking back at it. We had a lot of really neat opportunities. I mean, we toured, we played throughout the whole, Western United States, did some really opened up for national acts, all of that.
Did you graduate from college and then keep doing Cinnamon Brown and the Eskimos? Okay.
I was living in Vegas and still doing it. And then,
were you?
I was either flying out or driving out.
Were you married to Megan at the time?
Yeah, at the end.
So the last, couple years?
Yeah, but I would say the last 3 years, and this is, we released our last album I was just getting married, Open Road, and the hardest thing I think about it was, half of us were at Utah State, Bill was down at BYU, our bass player lived in Colorado and was driving out for gigs. It was, it was just, we were pretty split up. And I think that's when, I hate to say that, you know, the magic dies or whatever, but when you stop writing, you know, when you stop, like when the creative juices stop flowing, then you start doing, you know, there's a difference between like creating and there's a difference between doing. Right. And I think that's when things kind of started to fall off. And I mean, we were still playing like, you know, I would say 2001 through about 2003, we were doing 3 to 4 gigs a week. I mean, we were cranking.
Yeah. Brother Sage never toured. They just never, this is my college band, you guys. Brother Sage never toured. We just were mainly like a local band. And it just got, for me, like, it got to where I was driving down to Salt Lake and playing for free. Yeah. At some dingy club. Yeah. And like missing people's weddings. Yeah. And that's when I was just like, I need to get into a band that makes money. And that's when I started playing cover bands. Yeah. So that's what happened to me. But yeah.
Well, and I will say too, I mean, so 2002, like the Olympics came through Utah and we played like crazy. I mean, we were doing parties for Ski Magazine, Sports Illustrated, and getting in with some of the right people. We got asked to record a demo for Sony Music at the time, and did that, and we were making pretty decent headway. Yeah. I will say, and I don't blame it on this by any means, but it was interesting. We did a gig at the Field House up at Utah State, and we probably had about, I'd say, 3 to maybe almost 4,000 people come. They filled up the Field House, and it was awesome. Like,
those gigs back then were amazing.
Yeah, it was so fun.
Because kids didn't have phones.
Yeah.
And they didn't have anything to do. So if there was a band at the school.
Yeah.
I remember the quad.
Oh, yeah.
Looking out and seeing the whole quad.
Oh, yeah, full, just jumping. And,
it was crazy, yeah.
And so
we thought we were rock stars.
Oh, yeah.
And we probably were.
Yeah, exactly.
So all those young girls.
it was actually, I don't know how we got them, but we had like 4 different mascot uniforms. Yeah. We had like a chicken, a bear, and somehow my brother had convinced a car dealership to give us their inflatable clown, like the giant, like, you know, like come buy a car inflatable clown that we had. And so we put that on campus, and then we went around door to door handing out flyers dressed up as mascots. And in fact, I have to tell this story. So
what year was this?
This was probably somewhere 2001, 2002, somewhere in there. And this will all make sense when I get to the end of my story. So, well, it's kind of 2 different stories. So anyway, we did that, and we had, like I said, a massive, huge blowout. And we were coming off of, we did a gig that summer at the Gallivan Center where it was this like Live at 5 series, and we headlined it. And then the next weekend, and that was packed, and everybody was just moving. And the next weekend, we opened up for 10,000 Maniacs at Deer Valley.
Oh, dang.
And same deal, just we opened up and crushed it. And like everybody was way into it. And I can remember laying in bed going like, I've done it. Like this is happening.
Something's gonna happen. Yeah.
Like Bob Seger, you know, the amplifier's ringing in I was like so deaf, laying there in bed, just happy. And I can remember somebody was in my bed for some reason, because my house was like basically a crack house in college where everybody just, you know, everybody crashed and had a good time or whatever. So I was sleeping on the floor somewhere, and I remember just laying, I was on a camp pad with like a sheet, and I can remember just sitting there going like, oh my gosh, like we've made it, like this has happened. So we played this gig, and this was kind of like, I would say this was the swan song, and then everything kind of slowly fell off after that. But the funniest thing, and I have to bring back the mascot uniforms, we're playing this gig, and we had this chicken outfit that you couldn't see out of the beak. Like, if you wore it, like, it was like this big chicken outfit. And our friend Bill Howe, who unfortunately has passed away, so what we would do is our buddies, we'd say, hey, dude, like, during the show, just keep coming up in different mascot uniforms and dancing around on stage, and they'd grab a girl and bring them up on stage and, you know, just have a good time. So my buddy Bill gets up on stage, and he's wearing this chicken outfit, and this drunk dude gets up on stage, and Bill can't see out of it. Yeah. So this guy he backs up on the chicken. So my buddy Bill just thinks it's a girl that came out of the audience, and he's just grinding on this dude. and we're playing, and we were actually playing the song "My Mind," and you know how you can jam that out forever, right? Yep. And we're like, we all look at each other and we're loving this, and we're like, and so Bill's like sitting there, and he's got the feathered hands,
smacking some dude's butt.
Yeah, he's smacking some dude's butt. And then the best is the way he told the story is he's like dancing around going, I need to see how good looking this chick is, right? And so he opens up this big foam beak and puts it over like, and it's some drunk dude who's like, hey dude. And so we see the whole thing happen, and then we see this chicken just go running off the stage, and he never came back up on stage the rest of the night. He's like, guys, I'm a gay chicken. So anyway, it was a great experience.
Was that at the last hurrah?
That was, yeah.
The swan song?
The swan song. So, I mean, we played probably, I don't know, another 400 gigs after that, but that was really the beginning of the end. And why I say that is, and I'm sure you experienced this too, once the grunge generation graduated college and the Backstreet Boys, Britney Spears generation came in, and live music really died. And we went from, like I said, that year we had almost 4,000 people at this gig, and then nothing changed. We played a gig at the Sunburst Lounge and had like 300.
Yeah.
And it was like, what is happening?
Yeah.
But that class coming in, and it just progressively... And, you know, you talk to people and they'd be like, oh, I've never seen a band before, where, you know, you and I growing up kind of in the grunge generation or metal generation and all of that, like everybody had a band. Oh, yeah. I don't care where you lived, right? Yeah. Somebody had a band that they played in.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I can't really track exactly how, like, I almost after the 2000s, or right when the 2000s came in, early 2000s, I just lost track of what was happening, like how music was even, other than John Mayer came along, and like, oh yeah, you know, here's this new guy.
Oh, I want to run through the halls of my high school too. I'd love to scream at the top of my lungs.
This guy came in and kind of brought guitar back again, but other than that, there hasn't been like somebody that's come and like really made a huge mark.
Yeah, and I mean, you know, and you look at a guy like Ryan Adams, who's such a prolific songwriter, and he's done really well in the indie world. But
a lot of people don't know who he is.
A lot of people don't know who he is. But if he would have come out a few years like John Mayer time, he'd be huge still. Yeah. Or I mean, his stuff is absolutely phenomenal. But I think that was really what kind of turned. And I would say another thing too is, we were just winging it, like. Yeah. And I know you were winging it too.
And unless you had a song on the radio charting somehow, there was really not going to be any longevity.
And I think the other thing too, I think if somebody, there wasn't the internet to go. I mean, there wasn't like, hey, here's what you do, and we heard
it's almost like our bands died right before Napster.
Oh yeah.
Hit.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it was like. You know, I remember going to bars, like trying to get in, like, do you have a promo packet? I'm like, what's a promo packet? So I remember like spending like a gazillion dollars at Kinko's making printouts and like putting them in folder books and like mailing stuff out and like and all that. And I think had we had somebody that's like, here, let's get you guys some headshots, let's do a black and white, let's get like, you know, this is what you need to do. Here's, you know, but it was all like. You know, it's one of those things, if it's like working out, right? Are you burning efficient calories? And you think of like all the divey, nasty stuff you did that like never got you anywhere. Yeah. I mean, you cut your teeth for sure, but there's a lot more efficient ways to do it. And then I think you have to have everybody that's all in.
Oh, yeah.
You know.
So then tell me about moving to California.
Okay. So I moved to Vegas.
Oh, that was the first place
so I moved to Vegas, and I remember it was a kind of an interesting moment. We played a gig. We decided we were going to be done, and we came up to Logan because we're like, let's play a gig at Logan. We played at this place. I don't even know if it's still there, McGee's. It was over where the Ibis, kind of that weird street up there.
I don't think it's there anymore.
Yeah. Anyway, they had a second story with like a 7-foot ceiling, like you'd be hitting your head. Hamula, they would have had to cut a hole out for him to stand up out in there. But like, and I remember that's when everybody could smoke in bars too. And so all the smoke from downstairs was upstairs. Yeah. So we basically played for like, seriously, it was like 20 people, like friends, family, just kind of doing it. And I can remember we all went down to the parking lot, and it was like we all said goodbye.
Yeah.
And it was like, that was it. And I remember driving away, actually getting really emotional and crying, you know, which, you know, I hadn't cried since I watched the Leonard Skinner documentary. You know, I'm not a crier. But, you know, when they play Simple Man at the end of my wife is always like, you cried at the end of the Leonard Freebird, but you didn't cry at our wedding. I'm like, well, nobody died in a plane crash at our wedding, right?
Yeah,
I was happy.
No need to cry.
Yeah, no need to cry. And so I can remember sitting there going like, oh, what the hell? Like, it's over?
Yeah.
You know, and after, you know, so many highs and so many amazing things, I so kind of just said, okay. And then, so I was in Vegas for 7 years, and I was like, you know, I kind of like to play again, but the hardest thing, and you know about this, is that
did you have a hard time adjusting to not being in a band for a while?
It was actually really nice.
Oh, was it?
Yeah.
Because you were doing it so much.
Yeah, doing it so much that it was kind of almost like
a relief.
A relief, you know. I mean, when I was first married, it was every Friday, Saturday.
Yeah.
You know, it was, you're getting asked to do New Year's, you're getting asked to do Valentine's Day, you're getting asked to, and my wife was a trooper.
See, that never ended for me. I just kind of kept playing weekend gigs because I got to cover bands.
Yeah.
And I just followed the money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
so I can remember when I was down there, I decided I wanted to play again. And so I put a thing on Craigslist, and I'd taken like a 2-year hiatus or whatever. And I put up a thing, and the problem was it's so hard. I mean, for those of you guys that know, you know, and those of you guys that don't, playing music is, once you played at a certain level, you want to play at that level. So the hardest thing is you have to find people that can play at that level that you want to play at, that are equally as uncommitted to it as you are.
That can just show up.
They can just show up and play.
You don't want to rehearse.
Yeah, and the hard thing is like, I remember I reached out to a guy and I sent him some stuff that I had done and all of that, and he's like, hey, we've got this summer tour coming up, and we've got this.
They want to practice all the time.
They want to practice all the time. They were playing, like, they were going back and forth between Reno and Vegas, and it was like, I was like, yeah, no, you know, I've got a job, you know, like, and then I sat down with a couple guys. And here's my thing, and this is no offense to anybody's musical taste, but if somebody's like, hey, why don't we do Crazy Little Thing Called Love by Quinn, I'm like, all right, unplug, and that was nice playing with you guys. That was a lot of fun. No offense to anybody who likes Crazy Little Thing Called Love, but
there's a lot better Queen songs.
Yeah, exactly. It's just, you know, and then finding people that
Dwight Yoakam covered that.
Yeah, no, I'm sure Dwight Yoakam's version is very fine, but anyway, So trying to find the people that you want. So I ended up getting with a guy who, he loved early Rolling Stones, The Dead, just that. We did some acoustic stuff and did some acoustic gigs, and that was pretty cool.
And then after that?
After that, I put it away.
You went to California for a while, right? How long were you in California?
2 years. But I seriously, like, I just stopped playing.
You just stopped playing? Okay.
Yeah, and in fact, what got me playing, I probably didn't play for almost 3 years.
Yeah.
Besides just randomly. But what got me playing was I watched the movie Crazy Heart. And I was like, I should get the guitar out again.
Yeah.
And at the time, my oldest daughter, who's now 14, she was like 2.5.
Was this when you were in California?
California.
Okay.
And I used to sing to her when she's in the bathtub.
Yeah.
And play her songs. And I learned that Fallin' or Flying song. Funny how falling feels like flying. Anyway, great song. Jeff Bridges sings it. It's awesome. I probably shouldn't have sang it because I just sounded ridiculous. I didn't have my rock.
I don't think I've ever seen that movie.
As my son says, Dad, how come when you sing you sound the same as when you're yelling at me?
That's funny.
So anyway,
I'm angry, son.
I guess I sing angry. But anyway, I learned that song, and we used to sing it together.
Yeah.
And we sang it together for this Christmas thing, like talent show, when she was little. And so I kind of got the guitar out and started writing a little bit, and just writing some music. And then my job had kind of gone sideways. It was the recession, and my old company had asked me to move back to Utah. They said, hey, we really want you to come back, but we want you to relocate to Utah.
Yeah.
And so I had just stayed friends with him. For those of you guys don't know, there was another band kind of at the same time, that rock legends up at Utah State, like Brother Sage, which was Hambone.
Yeah, so Utah State University is about a half hour from where I live in Utah. Quinn, you were probably a couple years younger than Jeff and I.
Yeah.
But I think Jeff and I are the same age.
Yeah, you guys are old.
two years older. And so there was Hambone, there was Brother Sage, and there was Cinnamon Brown and the Eskimos. And I think Jeff was playing in a band called Juice.
Juice, too,
for a while, too.
I think Ryan Link, who was our bass player for a while, he was a bass player for Juice for a while.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So, yeah, that's where, so.
Yeah.
So when you moved back to Utah, you got in touch with
Hambone. I remember I sent him a message and said, hey, I'm moving back to Utah. And he really wasn't. He was recording some stuff on his own, but he really wasn't doing too much playing either.
Yeah.
And
no, because I was actually in touch with Jeff.
Yeah.
And we were trying to figure out how to the whole software and what was the best kind of plugins to use.
I remember
at the same time. We were all, and he had some kind of illegal
Swedish shite
pirating stuff he was doing.
That's a story for another time.
Yeah.
But anyway, so we got in touch and started talking. We're like, let's get together, and we got together, and it was so fun. Yeah. And that's the thing that I think, once again, for all you guys that are watching this, if you played, you played, and that just playing and creating music and hitting that pocket, as David Dulcimer, Glockenspiel, Geiselmeyer says, hitting, what is he called, the Quan?
I don't remember.
I believe it's a Buddhist term.
The Quan?
Yeah, lost in translation. I mean, I agree to disagree. But, we played, and it was just so fun, man. It was loud.
Yeah.
And raw. And
real amps.
Les
Pauls.
Yeah.
Gibson guitars, Fenders.
Yeah. Fender on Fender, Sweet Love, tubes. It was just, and we just had fun. And so we started playing, and that's when we put out an ad, and that's when we met Kirky Poo.
Yeah.
And
so Kirk, how long have you known Kirk then?
I've known Kirk since almost 10 years since I moved here.
Jeff was in the band for a couple years, and then he moved.
Yeah.
And that's when you guys reached out to me, and then I joined the band.
Yeah.
But was David?
No. So we had two different drummers. We had we started out with my buddy Dan, and Dan's incredibly talented. He's a young kid, and we actually did right when I moved back to Utah, we did a little bit of a Cinnamon Brown and the Eskimo reunion, and we opened up for Bill Widener's cousin's band, and Dan was the drummer for that. Just a great guy.
Yeah.
He, in fact, just released an album that's really good.
Cool.
But yeah, he's a drummer and just a great musician. And so he started playing with us and all of that. And then he ended up moving out to LA and got in with a band out there and did real well and toured around and had a good time. And then we had a guy, Ryan, who played with us. You met Ryan. He subbed in at Jackson.
I played with Ryan, yeah.
And then he got asked, he was kind of a multi-instrumental guy, real talented, and he got asked to play guitar in a Guns N' Roses band.
Yeah.
So
Machine Guns.
Machine Guns. It's no Pistols and Petunias, but I mean, I digress.
Yeah.
So anyway, he did that, and then we actually, the guy who bought the house I was renting when I first moved to Utah, had played in a band called, I think it was called Checkpoint Charlie, that Geiselmeyer played in, David.
Yeah.
And it's some, I can't remember how, I don't know if it's one of the Aquabats or something like that put it together. And they actually did pretty well. And when we lost Ryan, we actually had a gig. It was the Kaysville County Fair, kind of a big deal.
Yeah.
They had an elephant there. Yeah.
That's huge.
Yeah. It's
huge.
A long line. You can write it, you know. Yeah, no messing around here.
No.
So anyway, we
play for anything.
Yeah.
We'll play anywhere.
Exactly. So
pay us a couple dollars, please.
Yes. So David, I reached out to that dude, and he recommended David, and David was not playing with anybody at the time. And I want to say David, I don't even know if he had a drum set. I think he had to borrow my Mapex.
So the story with David, so if you guys, go look up Quinn Brown Project on Spotify and listen to the record that I did with Quinn a few years ago. The drummer on that record, and I don't want to get into David's history, but he told me stories that his wife was throwing away his drum sets.
Yeah.
But somehow someone would always...
Yeah, he always had a drum set magically appear.
Someone would give him a drum set. His wife hated that he played drums. He's one of the best drummers I've ever played with.
He is astronomically good. And he's played with everybody. It's like, we'll go and we'll have a sound guy. And like halfway through the gig, the sound guy walks up and is like, hey man.
I think I played with you.
And Dave's like,
hey, yeah, I remember that.
Yeah. David has two responsibilities in the band. Number one, he's our savant when it comes to food, besides when he screwed me on the Subway turkey sandwich.
Yep.
And number two, it's to know the sound guy's name.
Yeah.
That's all he needs to do, and then be a pocket drummer.
The drums, yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, he literally had, I think he's gone through like 15 sets or 10 sets, and they magically appear.
Yeah. So, in getting into this interview, I want to talk about lifestyle and music.
Yeah.
Quinn, when I met Quinn, one of the first gigs I did with him was up in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. And he had brought a yoga mat and a really crappy laptop, and he was going to do yoga in our hotel room. Talk about how you've kind of turned into this. Well, have you always been really into fitness?
Yeah.
And you also have, or had for a while, you had a blog called
Justifying the F Word, which I'll be releasing a podcast.
Yes.
And
let's talk about this.
Yeah. So, turning 40 was a rough deal for me, right?
And the F word is 40.
The F word is 40. It's not.
Yeah. But it's a good play on words.
Yeah,
I liked it.
It's a good play on words.
Yeah.
And basically, for me, it was almost a way of coming to grips with turning 40. And the concept of justifying the F word, and this goes into playing music or anything else, is society tells you there's so many things, that, like different molds you have to fit as you hit certain ages. Like it's like, and Rich and I can attest to this. It's like we'll be at a function and you tell somebody you play in a band. And they're like, oh, that's cute. And then your wife gets pulled aside and be like, does he really do that? Like, are you?
That's cute. My son's in a band.
That's really cute. Yeah, my little brother used to do that. But it's like almost like this weird taboo thing. And it's like, as you get older, there's these certain like societal stereotypes that's like, okay, you get older, well then you golf and then you do this. And so the whole point of like justifying the F word was trying to find people that are doing really cool things into their 40s and their 50s and like, just keeping it real. And really, I mean, I look at some of my musician friends, like we talked about Shab earlier, who I asked him when he retired, he sat in on a gig with us and I said, what you gonna do? And he looked at his bass and he's like, this, as much as I can. I just want a gig.
I was there. I remember.
Yeah. He's like, I just want a gig,
How old was he when he said that?
Oh, 60 something. Yeah.
Well, and it's crazy because I play with a guy sometimes with a food.
Yeah.
Up in Lava, and I played with him other places. And he's 65.
Yeah.
Playing the drums. Can only hear out of one ear and just loves it and just wants to play all the time.
Yeah. So, my whole point is, and like I said, this will be a podcast that'll be coming out here probably by August. But it's really I want to interview people like Rich or other people that are just doing cool stuff.
Yeah.
It's funny because if you look at marketing, the whole demographic is to the 20s, right? But the 20s don't have any money to spend.
Right.
But yet it's the people that are in their 40s that really want to do something. It's the guy who always wanted to learn how to play guitar. Why not start when you're in your 40s, right?
Yeah.
Why say this has passed me by?
Yep.
And so, so that's
cool. So go check. Is there a website or anything?
Yeah, right now you can still go to justifyingthefword.com.
Yeah.
That you can check it out. I have some blog posts. They're a couple years old, but like I said, it's getting rehashed. And
you're gonna start doing it again.
Yeah, my wife and I are going to do it together. Cool. So
that'll be cool. And then talk about fitness. I mean,
so yeah, I mean,
the reason I want to talk about this is because like I am not as fit as Quinn, but I've realized as I do even the slightest little bit of stuff to like, even if I go on a walk, I feel better. The rest of the day.
Yeah.
So when did you really kind of get?
So I've always been fit. Right? Okay. Yeah. So growing up, I always ran. I was big into running. I played hockey from the time I was 4. Played hockey in college.
So have you ever felt unhealthy?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. No. I've been. It was called the recession, Rich.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. When you got depressed.
Yeah. When I got depressed and lonely, and it was like lost my house and like was like robbing my kids' piggy banks to get a Diet Coke at the gas station. Going like, boy, this life of music in college has been amazing. Look at all this. Not wealth.
Yeah, right.
But anyway, no, I've always enjoyed it, and I've always found it meditational. And honestly, probably, I've always been fit to one degree or another, but I've kind of gone in seasons where I've been like way into it or just kind of into it. And probably about 4 years ago, I woke up one day and just said, I want to do this.
Yeah.
And I think part of it.
And your wife does it too.
Yeah.
So
So she's a coach at Orange Theory. Yeah. She's big into it. Yeah. But I think, especially as you get older, and speaking of justifying the F word and all of that, is it's like my dad's in terrible health, and his retirement years were terrible because he wasn't fit.
Yeah. And I talked to my wife about this a lot, how we want to get healthy so that when we're older, we can still enjoy life. Because I feel like a lot of people, they retire and they're out of shape and they can't even get out of bed.
And if you're out of shape when you do something kind of average, it's miserable.
Yeah.
But if you're in shape, it's not that bad.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And so, I look at it and it's what you do today is your result for tomorrow, right? Yeah. It's like if you get after it, you're going to feel better.
Yeah.
And so this last year, I really I should say, like a year ago, I felt like I really plateaued. And so I was really thinking about this. And this is one of the things I'm actually halfway through a write-up that I'm going to put up on Justifying the F Word about this. But I just haven't had the time to finish it. But so 4 years ago when I really dove into getting fit again, it was all about consistency, right?
Yeah.
It was like, even if I don't feel like it that day, just go walk on the treadmill. Or
force yourself to do something.
Just force yourself to do something. Yeah. So it was consistency. I
have just a little set of dumbbells in my office because I've been working from home since the pandemic. The shake weight. No, just like even if I do that and go on a walk or something,
So it was consistency. So I was like, I need to be consistent. I need to do this. I need to be consistent at it. And I did. And I went like 4 or 5 days a week. And then I was like, I really plateaued out. And if you've ever run or biked, you might say, okay, I'm going to go run 3 miles every day. You get to 3 miles, you might lose a certain amount of weight. You kind of get there and you plateau out. And so I really learned, and it kind of came to me, but like in order to have success, and this goes whether you're playing guitar, whether it's work, whether it's physical fitness, you have to have the combination of consistency and resistance, right? So it's like you can learn, it's like Rich and I have both taught guitar, and how many people plateau, they learn all the chords, and then they know everything they need to know to basically play, but they get stuck at this level, right?
Yeah.
And so what I decided to do in my workouts is it's like I hate leg days, I hate burpees, and so I said, I'm going to do all my resistance first.
Yeah.
And if I don't leave the gym without having resistance, like if I just float through it, then it was a wasted deal.
Yeah.
And then I've rolled that into my career where it's like if I'm out working, and I do a lot of managerial stuff now, but I'm like, what, if I don't make a sales call, then I didn't add any resistance into my day. I'm going to go cold call this guy.
So how would you, for most of the guys watching this, they're going to be guitar players.
Yeah.
How would you roll that idea of resistance into being a musician?
Easy.
Or a career or playing guitar?
It's like, for example, if you're a guitar player and you know all your standard chords, have you learned your jazz chords? right? Or if you know your scales, do you only know pentatonics?
Going beyond.
Going beyond, yeah. It's like, or you know what, you may not like country, but have you learned how to chicken pick?
Right.
You know, it's like, it's as a musician, it's like, okay, you know, are you doing anything outside it? Can you get on Ultimate Guitar and just cruise through something? If you can cruise through it, there's no resistance, right? Yeah. But if you're like, ooh, that's a hard chord, you know, that my pinky doesn't move that way, or, you know, that's where your resistance comes in. Because everybody, like, and honestly, that's where it gets fun, because how many of us as musicians pick up our guitar, play the same licks and go, I'm bored, and then put your guitar away?
Yeah, and you have to, it's like you're saying, the resistance part is learning something new.
Yeah.
It's like the teaching an old dog new tricks.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's like, unless you can move beyond that every day, or at least once a month, learn something new, you're going to be playing the same licks or the same chords.
Oh, yeah. It was like, well, I told you I was working on Eyes Without a Face last night.
Billy Idol.
And I was trying to slow it down and finger pick it and like kind of mess with it a little bit. And then I got on this Go-Go's tangent, and so I was messing around with my capo, trying to get the vocals right. Like, hey, can I sing it in this key? Can I sing it in this key?
The Go-Go's, the girls band?
Yeah,
I love that band.
Yeah,
we got the beat.
Yeah, we got the beat.
Vacation.
Yeah,
Belinda Carlisle. She was hot.
Oh, dude.
Dude, we grew up with some of the hottest girls. I mean, they're probably hot because they show so much more skin now.
Yeah.
But there was a lot more left to the imagination for us. It was just like thinking back to all
Lita Ford.
Lita Ford.
The Amazing Cat. No, so anyway, but it was like, so sometimes what I like to do musically is I'll take almost a genre I don't like. Or it's like I worked on for a while the Smashing Pumpkins song, The End is the Beginning, the one they did for Batman and all of that.
Yep.
It's on a door. And I took that and tried to write it as a country song. Using the same, like, you know, but like, trying to do something else.
Change it up.
Yeah, and when you do that too, especially if you're a songwriter and you're looking at creating new music, it's like, I think if you take something that you normally don't do, and then you try and put a style on it that you like, you might hit that spark of creativity and go, I like that. Yeah. And then you start going down a road and developing something, and it kind of gives you ideas or starting points.
And
really.
What's interesting with me is that with recording and recording your own music, it's all about just starting.
Yeah.
It's just starting to do it. Because I think a lot of people just sit there and go, they have ideas, but they don't ever start. It's like taking that step to just do it. You know what I mean? Can
I give Richard a plug here?
Sure.
Okay. Yes.
Do it.
You the Richard.
Yeah.
So one great musical lesson that I learned from Rich is besides having 50 pedals on a pedal board. And
True.
So yes, true. Preach, brother. But Rich as a recording artist, for a songwriter, there's a lot of times you're like, well, this isn't perfect. And Rich is all about get it down. Yeah. And let's push to get it down. And that is something that I think is, as a musician, like Rich was just saying, is almost a hard step to get over, because you have this thing that you like. It's like my wife doesn't understand what it's like to create something and carry it and bring it forth. You know, she said
women don't understand.
They don't get that. No, they don't. They have no idea what it's like to create something,
bring it forth.
to create something inside of them, and
out of their womb.
Yeah. They don't get the cornucopia of growth.
So are you saying you like that I'm about just
getting it down? Because
and releasing stuff,
because
and putting stuff out.
Because my personality is, and this is with a lot of things, is I'll rewrite it 15 times, or I'll play it and I'll be like, I don't like how that sounds.
The problem with me doing that though is I can, and it goes, even if you're a perfectionist and doing it the way you do it, I listen back to some of the recordings and I'm just like, I can barely listen to myself.
Well, none of us can barely listen to ourselves.
That's what I'm saying.
It's like you
either just put it out there and accept that it's out there, or you don't ever do anything.
Well, and it's like my songs on Spotify, right? I've got our album that we all cut together here, and
what was that album called?
Crisis Averted.
Guys, go look up Quinn Brown Project, Crisis Averted.
It's pretty amazing.
And Quinn wrote 90?
Yeah, and the Hamula wrote the other. Right. Yeah.
And we recorded it live.
Yeah.
At my studio, and we just did a few overdubs.
Yeah.
But the band was in the same room, all playing together, and that's one of the reasons I really like that record.
Yeah.
Plus, we'd been playing those songs for how many years before we recorded
5 years But I mean,
and I had to talk everybody into coming up and doing it.
Yeah.
But I think it was fun.
Yeah, it was awesome. Yeah. We need to do that again.
Yeah.
We got enough stuff. We could do another album. But anyway, it was, it's actually getting it down. What I was saying is like sometimes like it'll come up on Spotify and it's funny because when I'm with myself, I'll listen to it and I'm like, oh, yeah, that's good, you know. Yeah. Like, but when I get with people, I'm like, yeah. Which, okay, but that's another degree too. Is I don't think we should be apologetic about doing something cool.
Yeah, no.
And you know, the funniest thing, and Rich and I can both attest to this, is, you know, how many times do you have conversations with people that hear your music and go, Rich, that was actually good. And you're like, I don't know, I've just dedicated a life to learning an instrument and creating my craft and learning how to record it. That was actually good, Rich. I totally expected that to suck balls, and you
finally did
it. You knocked it out of the park.
You finally did it. You're 40-something years old. You've been playing since you were 13. You finally recorded something good.
Good job, little buddies.
Yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, so there's that whole thing too, where it's like, you know, and even as a elder statesman musician, as you will, with no real, like, I mean, no real aspirations, or being realistic that nobody wants to sign a 45-year-old musician to, you know, to their label.
Plus, I don't think the signing thing.
No, it doesn't.
It's not really a thing anymore.
Yeah.
And I think you're gonna lose money in the long run. I think the record label takes most of the
money.
Oh yeah. If you can find out a way to do it by yourself, YouTube and Spotify.
Yeah, that's where it happens.
That's where it's happening.
Yeah, and then we hire a bunch of 20-year-olds like the Blues Traveler video to stand in front.
Yes.
Like, we'll be behind the curtain. But I mean, when you don't, but it's still, you're putting yourself out there. You're creating this art, and it's subject to judgment, right? Yeah. And you'll have people to be like, well, you know what, that didn't sound as good as the last Dave Matthews album. And you're like, well, thank you. Like, we,
Thanks, man. Thank you.
We also didn't go into the studio for a solid year.
With a producer.
$100,000 and 30 other musicians that come in and
and that's the thing, is I think that the general listening public, it's not musicians, they just don't get it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Quinn.
Yes.
We're going on like an hour and 15 minutes here.
Oh, this has been super fun, Richard.
Thanks for coming, dude.
Yeah.
Any advice you want to give guitar players?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Number one, this goes on to the whole justifying the F word, right? For those of you that are hitting, almost 40, that are in their 50s, just keep doing it, man. Yeah. Like if you've got 3 dudes that like you guys just go and you hang out in somebody's garage, play some music,
have a few beers or whatever.
Yeah, just chill out. Like, do it, man. It's so fun because, like, life's so heavy, right? There's so much going on. You're raising kids, you're dealing with careers, all of that, and to get together with your buddies, it's like we get together and we laugh, we have a good time.
And I think that you and I have talked about this, and probably all the guys that play in the Quinn Brown Project, and probably just a lot of guys I've played with in the past, it's almost more about the hang than it is about the music sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, and it's like, you can go play a gig and there might be 3 people there and you're still going to have a good time. Yeah,
yep,
it's just...
Exactly.
And that's it. And I would say for those people that are younger, like, don't be discouraged by any of the things that I've said. Yeah. Just play, man. It's there's something so authentic to being real and creating something and being a musician. And in a world where everything's the same no matter where you go, everything's so monochromatic.
Yep.
The style's the same everywhere you go. the clothing lines, everything's the same all the way across the board. You know, you have the chance to create something beautiful and new. And if you're one of the young people out here listening, like, create something that like inspires people. Create something that's dangerous, like some of the music we were talking about, like that, you know, that like you hear that and you're like, I want that. Or create something that you'll have some 6-7-year-old kid hear, like Gary Newman's Cars, that you're like, dude, that's cool. Yeah. Like, I want to do that.
Yeah.
That would be my advice, man. Just don't give it up because you think you grew out of it.
Well, Quinn, thanks for coming on.
Yeah.
I really appreciate it. Quinn's a salt of the earth guy. And in fact, when like my youngest got diagnosed with diabetes, Quinn was like one of the first people that called me and said, hey, dude, this sucks. And that's all I needed to hear. I didn't want someone to, like, you know, just someone who could say, yeah, it just sucks. And it did, you know. Yeah. And Quinn was one of the first people to reach out. So Quinn's a good friend. I appreciate him coming on and doing this. This might be the only podcast type thing I do. I want to keep doing it, but it's just a matter of like finding people that will do it and finding the time. So if you want to hear more of this kind of stuff, let me know in the comments and I will try. If you hate it, give me a thumbs down too. So I don't care. But anyway, guys, thanks for watching. And if you're new here, please like and subscribe. And thanks again, Quinn.
Yeah, mazel tov, man. Good to see you.
See you, man.
Yep, later.
Bye.